That's good. You take the good leg down.
We're gonna go this way.
Bad leg
This way
down.
over here.
And the good, and when you come up, you go up with the good leg.
Right?
Okay. And I'm sitting here?
This chair right there in the corner.
Down there. Okay.
We've already got you a glass of water.
I'm Elmer Ruehlmann, and I am a veteran of World War II, and I am 88 years old. My twin brother, Eugene Ruehlmann, and I were registered for the military draft when we were seniors in high school because we had to. And people would ask Gene what he wanted to be, what he wanted to do. And he says, I'm going to be a Marine. And I said, they asked me, I said, I want to go in the Air Corps. And the difference between the two of us is I didn't like sleeping on the ground in the wet weather because that's what I was supposed to do to get sleep. I understood that in the Air Corps we at least had Quonset huts to sleep in at night. So that's the reason I went to the Air Corps and did not follow Gene into the Marines. But nevertheless, we were always in contact. When we went overseas, it was a very determined effort. We had already had an election here in the States, and in the beginning of November, we were heading to go over to Europe. And I have a brother, a big brother, who was in England for a full tour of duty, and he was highly recognized as an extremely fine leader. And he went back for a second tour of duty, and he told me, he said, Elmer, he says, you may not be sent to England. He said, you may be sent to Italy. He said, but if you're sent to England and you feel that you might like to have your pilot, he'll have to contact me. But if you'd like to have him contact me, and he'll have to do it to find out if I can have you assigned to my squadron. So he said, give me your pilot's name. So yes, it's Colin Story. So he requested Colin Story's crew for his squadron, and it came through. And next thing you know, we're on a train, and we're heading down to Bury St. Edmunds, and it is right near Cambridge in England, just a little bit east of Cambridge. I'll never forget sitting and listening into a radio. We're listening to the German broadcast, and the Axis Sally was the name of the broadcast coming from Germany. And Axis Sally would give a lot of blurbs and stuff. And Axis Sally, and this I heard, says, Major Ruehlmann, we know about you. We know all about you. So you ain't going to give us any more trouble. And I'm thinking to myself, who's kidding who? This is a war. But Major Ruehlmann, I got to tell you, didn't give a hoot. He was called Big Bad Bill for a reason, and the Germans knew it. Is that if they got in his way, he was going to be the one who lived to talk about it. We always played ping pong at the officers' club, and Bill and I used to play ping pong at our house all the time. We had 6 boys plus brothers-in-law, and we were batting that ping pong ball around all the time. So when Bill and I got together, we were partners. And the guys on the other end, we had some pretty good competition. So Bill wasn't exactly the most he was not the most accurate of ping pong players, but he had the swings. And anyway, he'd blow a shot. It was so, I mean, he could have done it backwards and he'd blow it. And I'd say, Bill, what the hell are you doing? And the guys on the side, they weren't anywhere around our crew, but they were officers in the officer club watching. Did you hear what that lieutenant said to Major Ruehlmann? and it was always an amazement. Nobody, not all of them knew that I was his brother, you know. So it was an interesting event. We were assigned to various aircraft when we were doing our missions, and we were assigned toward the end. I had 34 combat missions in my time in duty. We were assigned to a B-17 named Skinny. Now, Skinny, it was an aircraft that had crashed in November. And it was around early December that our crew first started missions. But meanwhile, Skinny at that time was getting repaired. If you go up to Skinny and you put your hand on the skin of the aircraft, you would hit a patch. So spread your hand. That's how many. It was just loaded with scars from anti-aircraft. So when our daughter Jan and my wife Chris and I and her two daughters, Amanda and Ashley, we were going through Germany on a tour, and we stopped at the place where the Ruehlmann family originated and where they left. The city was called Billingham. And when I looked at it, I saw about maybe 30 or 40 miles away from it was the town that we bombed on our first mission as a crew. And one of the funny things about that first mission is I'd never been on a mission, and you'd hear flak clicking through the skin of the aircraft. And boy, I tell you, I made that flak jacket look awfully big. Cuddle in behind it, you know. Oh, I got to tell you a story. The first mission, you were hearing the flak going through the skin of the aircraft, and got back and landed, and everybody's pulling themselves together. And when the front of the aircraft, when you go in, you grab a grip, and you swing your legs up inside. That's where we used to get into the aircraft, and then two of us would go to the front of the aircraft, and the pilot and the co-pilot would go up that way and up into the cockpit. And we were getting ready to get out of the aircraft, and my pilot says, "Oh, those rotten Germans!" I said, "What the hell's wrong with you?" Because he takes his civilian shoes off, puts them on the steps, and puts on flying boots. And I look back, he says, "Look at my shoes." A hunk of flak went right through his shoes. And I told him, I said, "Story, you're just lucky as hell you didn't have them on." He said, so anyway, that was on our first mission, and it's always something to lighten up the intensity. I never smoked and I never drank. But after a mission, you go to a room for debriefing, and we were always given a drink. Well, I want to tell you, I was one of the most popular guys to walk into that room, because I would give them my ticket. they could get a drink because I didn't want any. And what I wanted, I would just get a hot chocolate or a Coke or something like that, you know. Gene and I were numbers 4 and 5 from the Ruehlmann family going into World War II. The only one of the boys who did not go in was the oldest boy, John, who had just a miserable case of he was always with asthma. He was asthma, so he was qualified 4F, and but the thing that was so interesting is they had 2 sons-in-law who were active. One was down in the Caribbean, and the other one was it was in Washington, D.C. And when Bill and I were home, Dad always, after coming home from work, would get the garden hose, and he'd go out and he'd water a part of the yard. And Mom, by the way, my 2 other brothers, one was Carl, he was a doctor, and the other was Al. They both were in the Navy. And Mom was worried because Dad was just standing out there motionless with water. So she said, "Bill, would you go out and see if Dad's all right?" So Bill went out and talked to Dad, and he came back in. And he said, "Dad's okay." He said, his tears streaming down his cheeks. And he says to Bill, "Is it all over?" And Bill said, "It is, except for the Pacific, Dad, and that'll be that is in essence over, but it hasn't been signed. It hasn't been conceded yet." And
Are all the boys okay?
the boys are all okay. And until you're in a situation, 5 sons looking to duck the bullets, and God bless him. It was quite a moment, but Mom knows what the trouble was.
They all came home.
They all came home. Man, did we ever have celebrations. Ooh. In any event, those are stories that make a family whole. And when you duck, I'll tell you something, on every mission, I was in contact with our Lord. And I'm here to say thank you. So that's about as much as I can say about wwII.